thing, use IRC. But
if we have a meeting to resolve anything, then obviously the participants that need to be there. So
yeah, they need to be able to be there.
Right. So that would obviously be on Mumble. Nobody have ever suggested that we would do that on TeamSpeak.
Oh, okay, that's good then.
However, I mean, I don't know how far I can get Peter in installing Mumble. I still need to talk to him about the whole situation and see what he thinks. I mean, not that it is relevant to the whole situation, but since it has been the suggestion from your side to get him involved in the resolve process, then that becomes relevant to a degree.
Sure.
As for the international meeting, as far as that was already planned, obviously that will be in TeamSpeak today, and there will be a discussion about the event with the RBOSE break-off, or however you would name it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Also, I wanted to know if you were aware that the letter has become public.
Well, I sent it out to to the chapter news mail tonight, so
okay.
I guess.
Yeah. And then what's your doing?
No, I did it on behalf of. We wrote that letter together last night.
Okay. There have been some problems with the signatories and some of the credentials that have been added, because that's not all correct.
Well, that's everyone has put in themselves. Everyone has to answer for what they are writing.
Okay, I'll take that up with the individuals then.
No, yeah, good, because no one has put in any signature on anyone else's behalf.
Good. So before I go, just to reassess the situation, what is the current plan? What are you planning to do, RBOSE, in regards to activities, and what do you expect that would go with the movement? Or are you still looking for resolve, and what would that consist of?
Well, the whole RBOSE project in all is means to resolve problems, to be able to work in a platform where we're not restricted. So it's an ongoing process, of course. We're merely initially and in all doing this to be able to develop and show what solutions we think is the most the best ones, and what principles we think is the most enabling and well, moving towards openness, transparency, etc.
Okay.
So it's done for the movement, but obviously opposing the current management. But that's because we've been putting efforts to try to get try to implement both regulation as well as technical solution that has, well, mostly bluntly been ignored. So we're gonna display them under our own platform, so the members can see for themselves what they think is the best solution.
I find it very unfair that you term it as Nord, since a lot of us have spent more than 100 hours to discuss the whole situation with you, but in the end, that it didn't happen, that is what caused the break-off. So, I mean...
Well, basically, many of the core developers seems to be very fed up with having to ask permission to change every little bit of technology or try out technology, so etc. So, and I didn't think anyone was helping the situation at all by removing Lucas.
Nobody removed Lucas. Please don't even go there. They decided not to participate further themselves. Lucas was sent an email by Peter asking him certain clarifications. Lucas never replied.
Well, most of the grounds are just bogus, from what I have seen.
Which ground is bogus?
Like saying that it was based on some GPL ideology or whatever.
I have no clue what you're talking about.
Or that he refused to do things in Mumble, which is not at all within the Zeitgeist.com server's powers to say anything about. That's our server, or that's Pest's private server that he's offering for free, nonetheless.
Yes, well, okay, but the only moment that it became a problem is when there were official or termed official meetings happening here, or people being directed here from the movement's website. That's when it became a problem. Yes, Vince, yes, I agree with that, but people should also be given the security that whenever there are offensive people or people with abusive language, that these people get removed.
Could we make that up to the individual?
Exactly.
No, I don't agree, because you will be having...
Yeah, well, go.
No, stop! Don't interrupt him. Let him speak. Go on, Dan.
I was going to say I disagree, because there are more people than just people who share your ideology when you're in a larger group. So these people that come in that are new, probably even too shy to even participate yet, they're immediately being confronted with these abusive people. And although you might disagree that they're abusive, but let's not play that game. These people will be given an impression of the movement that we don't want them to have at the first time they interface with us.
Well, a solution to that could be presenting new visitors with a choice. Say you could inform them that right now we are filtering the data coming from a few members that we have seen to abuse our communication platform. But if you do not want them to be muted, you don't have to mute them either. You could talk to them, you could communicate with them, and let them communicate with you. Right now, that power is completely centralized.
Right, but you're also only involving the moderation process in that when you're talking about centralized, where it's not a play yard. When people come here to actually want to do something productive, there's also responsibility with the user. And if somebody comes in here only to be a dick, then, well, a larger part of the community thinks they have no place here, and they request for that user to be removed.
Well, still, I mean, we could make that completely up to the individual. It doesn't have to be. I mean, it's impossible for any human to be completely objective. So why not make that up to the individual?
Well, I can see where those beliefs are coming from, but in the reality, you're creating a lot more trouble than you're removing by the current policy. If you fail to see that, that's just saddening.
I mean, still, if you can, that also gives room for disagreement. You could, for example, build a structure where those filters, whatever you want to call them, if you filter out the data from a person, you could also post the reasons for why this filter has been applied. Because right now, I mean, most of the bans take place without transparency at all.
That's not true, sorry.
Yeah, that is true. And one of the main reasons Lucas left was that he didn't agree with arbitrary banning people without having a valid reason. He wanted to be presented with valid information backing up the reason to banning people, and that was not done. So he refused to do it.
Well, let's stay factual, please. What Lucas is saying, there's obviously a personal projection of how it all happened, and what the actual reality of the situation is not really clearly portrayed, I feel. But to stay factual, actually, all bannings that occur are being posted in the banned users list, and reason is submitted as well. What more transparency can you expect around a ban? What would you suggest?
Logs.
Well,
if someone is being abusing and you don't have the time to press a record button for a while talking with him before banning, then you're truly not fit to be a moderator. I'm sorry, but that's the reality. If you can't link in to a point in a log or something at that same post, other than just link to the rules, then it's just not going to be accepted. I know it's been done sometimes, but mostly not.
Yeah, it gives room for exceptions, and you don't really need to have that. And I'm sorry for perhaps overreacting earlier.
Oh, no, you've been completely fine. Don't worry about it. No, I understand what you're saying with the logs, and we are definitely working on making everything more transparent. The thing is that with IRC, yes, we can provide the logs easily when you're in a voice chat situation. Whenever such a situation occurs, yes, you can press record, but honestly, you don't know where it leads or at what point you should start pressing record, because we definitely aren't intended to ban anyone at that point in time. We just wish that they could get along, but at some point when it gets out of hand, obviously the moderator is trying to get the situation resolved and might be too busy to even think about something like recording. They just want to get the situation straight.
Yeah, we have said repeatedly that if you don't have the time to moderate, then don't moderate. You're so good at doing a lot of other stuff, and that goes for most moderators. If you don't have the time and energy to put in to moderate in a good way, then yeah.
Yes, but that's not what I said. I said the moderator would be too busy with the actual situation to actually press record, not too busy with other things.
And
no, I don't see any point there at all. If you can't, well, no. If as soon as you're considering banning or otherwise reprimanding anyone, you should put record.
Yeah, I also agree. This is Bill, and these bannings are just nuts. I could give you and Joey. There was no reason for those bannings. Dark Dancer, you're the one that globally banned Joey, which is not me. Can you justify why you banned that individual?
Yes.
And can you show logs?
Yes, sure, I can. I mean, I haven't can't remember the actual date of the IRC log, but it was in ZM moderator, so it is.
Well, I have those logs. I'll be more than happy to link you to them in a second.
Sure, go ahead. You can wiki to whatever you want. The reason that I banned...
they're to my forms.
Pardon?
I can link you to my forms that has the logs of you banning them.
I said, go ahead, post it. That's no problem.
All right. I thought that was something else. No problem.
And if there's a ban and there's a log, I'd like to see a quote on the whatever sentence was the definite reason for a ban, and that should also be that should be an open discussion. People should be able to respond to that and to discuss whether, let's say, the ad hominem excuse was really used, was really valid as well. Because we have seen a lot of abuse of some of the rules. I mean, arbitrary. What do you say? Kjellman tolkar.
Well, no.
Arbitrary interpretation. Thank
right.
you.
Okay, well, that's where we disagree, because if we would leave that open to such a format that you suggest, then there will be too much projections, and then it will be very hard to actually ever perform a ban.
But okay, well, if you don't take log posting or recording as something that has to be displayed in every ban description, if you don't have that as a fundament, then where do you draw the line between a justified and an unjustified ban?
Well, that's a very good question, and actually we had a very good meeting yesterday as well, where I talked to Zook and Anya, who also cooperate with you, and they addressed some very good things about transparency. The problem is that most of the times that these discussions happen, they are very emotionally loaded, and it's more an outing of discontent than actual productive suggestions of how these methods can be improved. As yesterday, I had heard for the first time that there are people that find it not very comfortable that we have moderation meetings which are closed, and they said, why don't you record them? I said, well, nobody has ever suggested that we should, so I guess we can do that. There's no problem with that. We are so much in development. When you are now talking about logs, okay, Caleb Travis is the only person who has ever asked me, well, can you log this for me, and can you show me the records of this? Other than that, there have only been people complaining, well, this sucks, and this procedure is so corrupt, everybody's a dictator. That doesn't help. If more people like Caleb Travis at that point in time would have come and said, guys, we have a real problem with people being banned and the logs are not transparent enough. This is something we definitely would be willing to work on. Come on, you can see the essence and reasoning, although I don't agree with some of the depth that has been portrayed by Caleb Travis in some parts, or by you, I can't remember, by underlining some words. Probably more proof should be made available. Sure, I can agree with that.
Well, that makes me very happy. We have something to give each other.
Well, I for one, I know I've written in the forums in various cases where I've stated that this should be transparent, this should be done like this, etc. I mean, in my opinion, and I haven't seen any adaptation or further discussion about that suggestions.
Right, and sorry.
That's a problem also when all complaints is met with defense rather than questions of how we suggest to solve problems. We've been basically counterattacked, and in some cases there's been almost a mob mentality towards members from groups of moderators, especially on IRC. And I'd like to add regarding IRC, especially that most heated discussions has been when moderators that are not regulars in IRC show up and get questioned by members because they see that, oh, this guy is online. Finally, I don't get very many chances to talk with this guy, and they start having discussions with Tank Top and Thunder and VTV and such that are not often there, and they tend to always see that as a personal attacks, etc., and just widely defending themselves rather than ask for suggestions. I mean, this is a quality that should be quite obvious that a decent moderator should have. Although I agree that it probably hasn't been laid forward as a suggestion when people see problems many times. Absolutely.
Right, and I understand what you mean about the availability of the moderator to the question, but also you have to consider that, of course, yes, our moderators aren't perfect, and sometimes questions are posed in a very agitating way. For example, I have a lot of problems, and it's a shame that Viper left because I don't want to talk when he's not here, but I need to use that as an illustration. When Viper says something on the IRZ, he says things that are that are related to the topic, but it comes across very instigating, as if he wants to make or exploit the situation to blow it up, so to say. And that's, of course, just an interpretation on my part, and might not at all be what he means, but this is something that happens in other situations as well, and that's why it's very hard to use text chat for anything, in my opinion, where serious discussions have to be done, because you cannot interpret the emotion or the intent behind it, and people draw conclusions there about a certain thing that has been said, while it might not have been intended as offensive, and that does not further the situation and causes the behavior of the moderators and the users in that situation where it blows up.
Well, I disagree with the whole banning situation in general, and justifying bans for Viper or Joey or me, I just don't see it. I don't understand, still why I was banned, and then I'm being accused of other things. I haven't touched that. I haven't touched the Zeitgeist thing for a while now, and I'm being accused of a lot of things, and it's nuts.
Well, I mean, it's personally a better idea if we don't discuss face-to-face or voice-to-voice the contents of your banning, because I'm kind of opinionated.
We discussed other people's bannings here. What's the difference between mine? And give me a good reason.
Because I feel that I'm too opinionated in the whole situation, but I'm willing to listen to you if you have something mind-blowing for me to hear.
I don't know why I was banned, and I would love to hear your opinions, because obviously those opinions have been kept to yourself and not towards me, because I kept on asking. I've even apologized to Tank Top. I did I was against this apology, and I did it. Still, he said never, and I'm like, what the hell?
What I think is that the way you post your apology, I've read that apology, and I thought it was very egocentric and not a real apology at all.
Well, that's your opinion, though. I really did mean that apology, and I take offense that you think otherwise. You never contacted me. You never asked me, nor did Tank Top, unfortunately. You guys never contacted me. I think there's a real serious lack of communication here, Dark.
Why would I do that? You said that you would be leaving the movement. That is where the story at that point ended, and there was no real intent to contact you, or, sorry, intent was the wrong word.
Whoa, when did I say that? I said the movement's goals are interesting. When did I say I don't believe in the movement?
Well, your friend Joey made that post on behalf of you, remember, where he also stated, and Bill will be leaving the movement.
Well, that's Joey then. That's a miscommunication problem. You should probably come directly towards to me if you really cared that much. That's a communication problem, and I disagree. And and that's why I'm totally against this banning. You need diversity in the pool. When you go and you ban someone, are you really attracting just atheists and open-minded people, or do you want to attract other people here? I disagree with Peter Marola. Is this guy trying to promote his movie? He's a movie guy. All right, no offense, and the people on top do not have, they lack the sophistication to make good judgment calls, especially in technological situations. We can, avoid these ban process. We need to be able to, and this is for our RBOS. I'm not sure about the Zeitgeist thing. We need to be able to work with people we do not like. That's it. And if we were to have this meeting, in my opinion, our RBOSE should take the standpoint of our doors are always open. I think our RBOSE can work as a federation towards because we're working towards the same goals. I think we can work as a federation, a type of a collaboration to work towards those goals, but our values and principles are completely different. And it's unfortunate because I disagree that Peter Marola should have any say on a technological standpoint, and Tank Top is completely unruly. It's very unfortunate though, but that's how I feel. I feel we can make a better structure that's not a top-down structure.
Of course, I mean, you have full entitlement to feel that way. I personally disagree because I think Peter is very intelligent and really could do a lot for the organization of the movement in general, but he isn't right now. He's indeed, as you said, he's a movie guy. He's working very hard on the third movie, and that's basically what he does right now. So the day-to-day management is left over to other people, and generally this is not a closed structure at all. If there is anybody that wants to get involved in organization, they have the ability to, but they need to come forward with it and not just criticize that, oh, the management of the Zeitgeist Movement is bad. Well, if you see where it can be improved, please start participating yourself. That way we can get a better structure out of it. And I don't agree that top-down structure
I'm banned.
Is bad.
Globally banned. I should throw it in there.
Yes, no, I understand that, but let's look at the situation neutral. Let's not make it about me or you right now. I'm willing to talk about it if you want to, but let's save that for the next topic.
No, I think that's important. But that's my opinion. That's your opinion that you don't. So you're more than willing. If you want to sit back and listen, go ahead. But if I happen to talk about myself or someone else, that's I view it as perfectly okay. Because those are really good examples.
Okay, well, fine. If you want to have it that way and you're forcible about it, then go ahead.
No, I'm not. I'm not trying to be forcible. I'm thinking those are relevant things. The problems of the movement, and to reiterate here, the real problem is the top structure. The top structure is not sophisticated. Is not technologically sophisticated to make those judgment calls. Unfortunately, and that's my opinion. But I feel the consensus with RBOSE is basically the same way.
Okay, so Will, I just want to interrupt you shortly because I have to go. But I just want to throw a couple of balls with you here. I've been thinking about this, and both Will and Callie, you are programmers, so you will probably be able to tell if this idea of mine is just craziness. But what if we could? I talked earlier about these information filters. What if we could develop filters that we could give to the visitors or the participants in the forum and say, okay, this month, these are the filters that we have put forward, and in these filters we have chosen to exclude the following members for the following reasons. And if you want to take this filter and include others, that is all right. If you want to take this filter and develop it further, that is all right. And then, in that sense, the moderation gets somewhat automated, and each month you could have a filter revision, say, the moderating team, instead of sitting down and thinking about who to ban, you could basically look at what filters are being developed and what people are being included or excluded by the viewers and the visitors, thereby making moderation sort of an organic process, something that is that a bad idea? Is that something that is at all possible?
Actually, I think they've already piloting something where you do something similar to, say, comments on YouTube, where when you get karma down, your post will get closed, but anyone can still open and read it if they want. But it's based on, community arrived layout for how the conversation looks.
Yeah. So, Dark Dancer, do you see any value in that approach?
Yes, I do think that it's a very good idea. The reason that I personally, and I think some other moderators would be hesitant in implementing it right now, is due to the still developing nature of the movement. And the reason why moderation is also a little strict right now is because a lot of people are new to the material, don't understand it as well as would like, and to have a community system in place for important decisions in the movement is not very easy. So it has to be a gradual opening. But I definitely see this system that you just proposed as being a very valuable option in the future when we are a little more developed.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. Everything has to be a transitional process. But that is also an example of where the people that are currently involved in this idea collection called RBOSE could really benefit the Zeitgeist movement. And I think that's really where we have to go, seeing the value in sharing ideas with each other.
Yes, I fully agree. But the main problem that is caused right now is because, and I'm not accusing you or wanting to make you look bad, Caltratus, but how the initial opening statement of RBOSE, either as a project group, splinter group, or whatever it would be called, was already downright could be perceived as attacking, and that will really complicate matters in terms of normal cooperation. And that's why I asked you, Caltratus, also that yes, I understand that what Tank Top did was really bad, but please don't blow up yet. Let's just continue the talks. We've been talking a lot this week about it, so you definitely had the attention, but this is just a very unfortunate twist in terms of cooperation. Sorry, Bill, I'll let you go after. What could have been a more valuable route is to actually have set up meetings where everybody would be invited that has some sort of involvement in the situation, and where we could productively be speaking about it. But every time that it did happen, it was on voice. And I don't want to come across as too opinionated about voice, because sure, there are a lot of benefits in IRC, but having a real constructive meeting is not working for a part of us or a larger part of people that need to be involved in such a situation, as again, the projection of all the text is interpreted the wrong way.
Okay, yeah, and that's the lack of technical sophistication by the top. They have this mindset that and I'm not trying to down the people on top, but they simply lack the sophistication. You know, Ubuntu is an open source OS, and they're constantly on the bloody edge. There's going to be more failures than successes, but when you get those successes, it's not only an awesome feeling because it works, but it opens up a new paradigm. And unfortunately, I feel that this top system not only is not sophisticated, but they don't have the right type of sophistication to understand what a new paradigm is, because they've never experienced one before, and our RBOSC is going to educate people on how to understand how to do things for themselves, basically, and not have to rely on developers. I hear the term developers being used a lot, like they're important. I heard that they were going to be paying developers within the Zeitgeist movement here, at least that's hearsay, supposedly. And again, when you pay someone, you're asking for their obedience to do a product, because and to me that doesn't make sense, because there's something out there that's working already, and so we need to re-educate people, and not only with programming, but how to fix your car, how to do everything else. Unfortunately, the Zeitgeist movement, it doesn't facilitate that type of thing, and they facilitate just movies and in advertising, and it's almost like a Peter Merola fan club, basically.
Well, I can understand why you would form such an opinion, but it's really the hard part here is that the first year that we just gone through was really based around getting the chapters up, getting the initial fundamentals laid down. So yes, there have been a lack of projects, but it doesn't mean that they can't come. Actually, I want to show you something, since most of you haven't been to the international meetings where I presented this project, and you might think it's crap or you might think it's nice, but I just wanted to share it with you since I'm here.
All right.
Okay, this is the personal, sorry, oh shit, I can't work with Mumble, my apologies, I sent it to the wrong channel. Here we go again. What do you think about this? The website is still much in development, and the text is a bunch of crap, so it's just to illustrate where we could put text, for example, but perhaps it's nice.
I think it's cool.
I'm just wondering, what is this about? Just feeding the people who are hungry? Let's see here. Yeah, it looks cool though. Nice site.
No, no, certainly not. The basic intention of this project is to spread awareness around the complications around the world hunger that exists today and how it's really related to the will of people to change things and the technological solutions that we already have, and that it's basically nonsense to continue and go and try to find monetary solutions to solve the problem.
I'm just wondering, just a question. I don't know if you know this, but is there something on the site where it has technological solutions that could be added, or that are being implemented that could work to feed people on that website?
Oh, that will be certainly part of the main menu structure. As you can see there, I have the solutions section will be totally dedicated to, on one hand, the sociological or the value part of it, and the other part will be completely focused on describing the technological processes or technologies that we could utilize to solve the problem.
Yeah, I'm an advocate, sure, feed the hungry, but I also like the words actions speak louder than words, and I'm a mechanical engineer. I graduated as one. I wanted to come in and do something that was robotic or with automation, and I felt that that's not being even supported within the Zeitgeist movement, and it probably, I'm assuming it in the future. I'm assuming it's not going to be either.
Well, we don't know that. There's not really a plan laid out for what we can and cannot do. What I do know is that currently main focus will be on spreading information and targeting people's values. So currently, yes, there have been a lot of work with the movies, which is obviously just a very limited thing, and we can do very much more. And that will be a main focus this year, develop more methods to target people's values and make them understand why changes would be necessary. What you're talking about is a very practical part of this, and the practical part is at this point not so important to the movement in general as before people even understand why you would want to work on a practical part of it is because they need their values targeted and changed first.
Sure, but if you have nothing to show, like I said, actions speak louder than words. If you have nothing, you can't get nothing out of nothing and make it something. Am I crazy? Or maybe you can. I don't know.
Well, no, certainly I haven't said that you are crazy. I'm saying, sure, the point you make could or could not be relevant. What I'm saying is that I believe that even if you had a lot to show, there still is the prime focus of the value system that is in place within most people right now, and unless you don't change that first, then they won't perceive your solution or whatever you want to show within the right context.
I've started many communities, game developing things and, things of that nature. As much as getting people aware and everything, I have acquired over 2 million people on one format at one time. Talk about a advertising army for you, implementing such features as links. A individual will get gold in a game if they post links and other people click those. It does it by IP identification. Now, that's all great and dandy and stuff, but this is a different thing. I think it helps a lot of people in a mindset if you show them something. So if you build a home and you have a alternative energy source, be it this working off of the Stirling engine or the solar panel or something else, people are like, that works, I'm going to do that. How do you do that? And then, you go and you teach them. And, that's something I'm not seeing, unfortunately. not banning people is another one. If we in a just a simple thing like that, that's proof in the pudding basically. We could develop methods, new paradigms to not ban people, but we're banning people, and you're saying we're trying to acquire a lot of people, but I find that not to be true in my opinion. When you're going around and banning everybody every 2 seconds, or just not facilitating a correct environment for all sorts of people, again, it doesn't make sense, and I find your statement that you're trying to get people is not true. You get people and then they leave the site after they realize what it really is.
Well, I disagree. With working with the chapters, I do see a constant growth, but most of them do not participate on the main site forums. They are mostly in the localized groups, which are the local chapters. So there's really a hard way to say for anybody that the main site is losing people or there are not many people becoming active. This is not just measured by that measure alone.
But it could be much better, right? Just because we're increasing right now doesn't mean we could increase more. I feel right now that the growth has stagnated quite a bit in the movement.
I don't know. There are more chapter requests coming in than ever, as in people wanting to start local chapters around the world.
Yeah, sure, but again, once they truly realize what's happening, you really don't know if there's any staying power with this movement. And I'm saying, in my opinion, there's no way. I'm telling you from experience, there's no way.
Well, that is not true. Especially in international meetings where the chapters participate, we do cover this subject quite a lot of times. Since there were so much discussions going on in IRC, we posted chapters with the question as what they think of the matter, and the huge majority of the chapters agree that the current method is the most sane way to go at this point in time until we outgrow the need for such behavior.
Okay. Well, yeah, I that really didn't hit my question, but it just, it just seems like there's a lot of stuff happening, but there's not any action. Basically, there's no, there's no support for actually doing stuff. How to fix your car engine. How do you do this? How do you do that? It's just a lot of advertising, and that's not going to get you anywhere. And you need quality users that know what they're talking about, and that, you need people that are sophisticated enough to, fortunately, Dark Dancer, I don't believe the people, VTV, you, or Peter Marola, and even to an extent Tank Top, can make those right choices.
I'd have to. Would you excuse me for this moment? Peter,
no problem.
Peter just logged on, and I want to brief him on the situation. I will come back if I can as soon as I'm done with that.
Yeah, let me just state here. If I'm acting like an asshole, RBOS, I'm, in my opinion, I'm not talking for everyone else, but we should, accept, types of federation with the Zeitgeist Movement, but these guys, in my opinion, unless they can prove otherwise, what you're doing here is they're just going to smooth things over, and then the process will continue from my experience. But I could be wrong. And if I'm voicing things too much, just yell at me. But in my opinion, it's not. If there is some sort of meeting, I'm going to treat the meeting as our doors are open for types of RBOSC and the Zeitgeist can work together, but there's different principles and values, and that's what a federation is basically. If they decide they want to have that, but I'm not willing to work with in the Zeitgeist thing, in my opinion, and I just want to get my piece out there. Someone just PM'd me. Also, someone PM'd me and asked me a question, and I'll answer this as well. I personally have no problem if you want to work with the Zeitgeist Movement and, RBOSC, don't have a problem. Just in my opinion, me personally, I wouldn't do it right now. I'll work in collaboration with them in a few aspects.
All right, pardon about that. I'm back.
Hey, Gilbert.
Hey, Zoo. What's up?
Just working as usual, slaving away.
Hardworking man. Alright, well, I'm going to move back to TeamSpeak to do some preparations for the meeting tonight. Thank you, everybody, for the conversation. And if ever you want to converse more, then I'm always open. So, good luck and see you soon.
See ya. Hey, guys. I think that was really productive.
What did you guys talk about?
I really don't know. Just if I were to give an abstract, DD's trying to look for some middle ground for RBOSC, and he wants this group to stop. We're informing him that we didn't do any acts or any craziness or whatever he is, and there's a miscommunication problem. But I was the one that inferred that, because there really is a miscommunication problem, and basically I said they lack the sophistications to make the right technical calls, basically, for the Zeitgeist Movement, and that's just an unfortunate flaw of the hierarchical system. And I basically said that, worded it differently about a lot of times.
Okay, so Anya deleted most of what he said in the conversation we had. She could obviously not stand for her words, as she says she does.
What happened?
I had a conversation with Anya on Wave yesterday. She was asking about the change, etc. And later she referred to that as me being offensive, etc., which was totally untrue. So upon request, I made that Wave public and invited people to read it themselves to make their own decision. But of course, she went in there and deleted stuff.
Well, isn't it there in the history?
History doesn't work too well. Yet it's alpha, I can see if I can find it.
If they make it their hobby not to leave us alone, it's because they're getting feedback, they're getting reward from it. And part of the reward is they get talked about, and it's working, right? So if their goal is, let's see if we can be destructive and take their focus, how well are they succeeding? I mean, that's what I look at it.
Yeah, you are right to a certain degree. I agree with the attention, certainly, that's correct. I do have to remind you, though, that even if we ignore these people, it's their main hobby to just talk about us day by day, which is fine if they do that in their own mediums, no problem. But if we ignore them, which we try to do, they just try to find some other silly way to grab our attention. Like, we ignore them for a while, and then they put up a YouTube video about Peter. Weird. They're trying to go in extreme ways to just grab our attention. And I can say I'm not infallible in any way. That will grab my attention because people will notice and people will